Hello everyone, my name is Mandy Lynn. I'm the author of the fantasy novels Essence and I Am Mercy and thriller novel She's Not Here, and also the creator of AuthorTube Academy. And today we're going to be talking about how to format your paperback novel for CreateSpace in Microsoft Word. So I'd like to think I'm a bit of an expert because when I was in the process of formatting She's Not Here, I had finished formatting and then I accidentally deleted the file. So then I had to go back and restart and do it all over again. So I kind of feel like I have it down to a science, which is why I finally feel comfortable telling you guys how to go about formatting your novel in terms of doing fun drop caps at the beginning of each chapter and how to do the headers and footers as well, because that is the trickiest part. So I'm just gonna jump on into it and head over to my laptop to show you. Alright, so here we are in Microsoft Word. I already have everything opened up. So this is actually the pre-formatted version of my book, She's Not Here. So I'm just going to kind of walk you through how I format it. The first thing I want to know is, just to start, the way I do it is that I go on CreateSpace and I pick out which template size I want. So I will leave that link below to all the CreateSpace templates. But I do 5.5 by 8.5, and I just kind of work off of that. And really, all it does is just makes this page 5.5 by 8.5. So when you get started, one thing I do want to note is this navigation panel over here. So the way you reach that is under View and Navigation Panel. This is great because when you hit that little button, you can actually jump around chapter by chapter. So it's a huge lifesaver. So I'm just going to walk you through a few things. So I have a few different title pages. This is the initial title page. I created this based off of the cover. It just leaves me a place to sign later on. Then I have the copyright page, and then I have another title page with my name. And then if we scroll down, we have a list of books that I've also written, the dedication, a blank page, and then we jump straight into chapter 1. So the trickiest thing you'll have when formatting your manuscript is getting these headers and these numbers correct. So on traditional books, when you have a chapter, you have a fancy little title here, and there's no page number and there's no header, but everywhere else there is. So you can see on the even pages, I have my book title, and on the odd pages, I have my name. Where you want it doesn't really matter, you just have to be consistent. So the way you set this up is you have sections. So if you look, we can actually see the separated out sections. So I'm going to start at the beginning here because the sections start there. So we have section 1, section 2, section 3, section 4, section 5, section 6, and so on until we get section 7 right here with the different. Now, I do want to make a note that the reason I have everything at the beginning here as section breaks is because if I don't do it as section breaks, I'll actually end up with all my headers and footers up here. So I do each of these pages as its own individual section, and then I make sure this little link to previous is unclicked. So the reasoning for this is because of the page numbers and the headers. So I'm just going to open it up. So we have up here checked off different odd and even pages. That makes it so we can edit these headers right here. However, with the page numbers, you have to go in and add the page number separately. So you'll have the page number here, and then you'll notice there's no page number here. So the way you do that is you gotta highlight, go over to page number and format page number, and make sure continue from previous section is clicked off. Now before things get too confusing, I do want to tell you how to start little sections just like that. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the little paragraph button so you can see what's going on. But instead of page breaks, I use section breaks. So the way you add in section breaks is going to layout and then breaks, and then you can either choose next page, continuous, even page, or odd page. So I would 9 times out of 10 say use next page. In this instance, I used odd page just because things were getting a little funky, and I'm still not quite sure why. So when it comes to getting this chapter page perfect, the thing you need to keep in mind is that you need a section break before the chapter as well as during the chapter. So the one that goes before the chapter will be on this page up here, and then the one that goes after the chapter will be right here down here. But you just have to know that the one that goes down here for the last word of the page needs to be a section break continuous. So when we do a section break before the chapter as well as after the chapter, you'll notice when you go to click on the header and footer, so we have section 6 here, section 7, and for some reason section 9. That means I probably have 2 continuous ones in here instead of just one, but either way that's fine because as long as it breaks up the section. So when that happens, that means we can do almost just about whatever we want. However, you have to keep in mind that this section cannot be linked to the other sections. By default, this little link to previous button will be clicked off. So when you go to delete, before you delete, you need to hit the link to previous and then click link to previous. And then you also want to do that for the corresponding page. So this is an odd page, so we need to go to the next odd numbered page and make sure it's clicked off here as well. And of course everything's already pre-formatted, so it's not highlighted up here. But once you make sure things are unlinked, then you can go ahead and delete the section up here, and then you can delete the page number down here. So once you initially have your chapter page set up, you've got the blank on the top and bottom, but everywhere else is still keeping the header and footers, you're going to want to go ahead and make this look really nice. So the way I like to do it is that all my chapters have a sort of preset up here that I create. So I make sure that all my presets are made. That way if I ever do make changes to the chapter headers, it'll make it change automatically to all of them. So again, what I did just then was I went to my little preset and then I clicked modify, so I could go ahead and modify this if I would like. So if I wanted it to be 72, it would make it 72. However, that looks ridiculous, so we're not going to do that. So I have my chapter header, and then I have my chapter subheader, which is right here. So you can see chapter header, chapter subheader. And then of course you'll notice that the chapter actually starts about halfway down the page. That is industry standard. Another thing you can do to make your chapter page look really nice is to have this drop cap. So I'm going to show you really quick how you do this. You would basically highlight the text there, then you'd go to insert, and we see this little drop cap option. So we're going to go ahead and click dropped, and there we go. It makes it nice and big, and if you need to make changes, you just kind of sort of double click right on the border there, and you can change the distance from text and a whole bunch of other things. But that is just an easy way to kind of make it look really professional. And it's something simple without getting too over the top. So my only note for these drop caps is just to make sure that they all look nice and they all look similar. So make sure, of course, they're the same font, the same text size, and they're lined up the same. So here I have the text going all the way to the edge, and then I have just the bottom of the T coming just a little bit below the line here. So when it comes to the actual body of the text, you'll notice that the words go from edge to edge. That is because up here we have it set for justified. So that means that it goes nice edge to edge. However, sometimes we get little screw ups. So I will show you one. So here's an example of a little whoopsie. Because it's set for justified, it really wants to spread these words out really nice. Now, a really easy solution to fix this is actually just take your cursor to the end of the sentence and hit enter. And it makes it nice and pretty again, and it's actually a really simple solution. So the next thing I want to talk about is widows and orphans. So if you aren't familiar with like graphic design terms, that is basically when this little lonely word is just kind of floating around. So we can see that story was supposed to be a part of this sentence, but it's the last word of the sentence and it ended up on the next page, and it's kind of ugly. So there's a few different ways you can solve for this. You could either go over to this page and hit enter until this kind of joins it on the other page. Or another option is that you could go ahead and highlight this whole page as well as the little orphan over there, and then change the paragraph spacing just enough to fit that one last line on the page. So now we're just getting through the whole novel. We're going through each chapter and making sure it looks pretty. We're checking pages for anything that looks obscure, or if there's random words hanging, and if there's blank pages or anything like that. And then finally we're going to get to the end of the novel, where once again we just have random pages. So we have our acknowledgement section and also the about the author section. So the reasoning I have this blank page here is just that I wanted this about the author page on an odd numbered page, so I just put this blank page in there to kind of give me that space. So another note on sections, you'll notice that I have sections going on here again as well. So the rule of formatting when it comes to formatting a novel for print is basically you're never going to use a page break. If you use a page break, your page numbers and your headers are going to get all screwed up. So just always use a section break. And that goes for in here as well. But again, once you have your sections in here, just make sure the link to previous is unclicked, and then you can delete your headers and footers. I cannot stress enough the importance of the link to previous button, because it is going to be your enemy, and if you don't have that done correctly, you're just going to have a lot of headaches. So one thing I do want to note is that as you are finishing up your formatting, just to make sure you keep on going through the manuscript page by page, just to make sure you don't spot any issues, because it's very easy to screw up your formatting. And I sometimes even like to just print out the pages myself at home just to make sure that things look correctly, and then I'll print it through CreateSpace. But I just found that when you're really thorough, it saves you the time that you would have spent being frustrated when CreateSpace or whoever your printer is rejects your novels. That is it for today's video. I hope this helps you figure out how to format your novel. It's extremely difficult, but once you figure out how sectioning works and how the headers and footers work, you'll notice it gets a lot easier. If this video was helpful for you, let me know in the comments down below, or you can request other videos. If you would like to stay up to date on everything I'm up to, you can subscribe to my newsletter, and when you do, you get my free How to Conquer Writer's Block mini guide, as well as the first 3 chapters of She's Not Here. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up, comment down below, and subscribe.